Hi everyone. So I wanted to share my last night I got a Lilith and Mother Mary upgrade, and I wanted to share my experience of it. It's extremely powerful. Before I do that, I want to talk about why I decided to work specifically with Lilith. Most recently, and actually for years, I've been noticing that I had self-destructive tendencies and self-sabotage that would come in and kick in old addictions, and it was a lot of times just when I was getting strong and raising my vibration and really doing well. Then all of a sudden this self-destructive part would come in and just kind of take me down. And so that was something that I've struggled with for a while, and I've done a lot of shadow work and soul retrievals, and have gotten different aspects out, but probably over the last, I'd say 3 years, it's been coming up to work with the dark goddess aspects, Pele and Kali Ma, Durga, these destroyer warrior goddesses that are more of the primal wild energy. And these are parts that I have been uncomfortable with throughout my whole life, because obviously I put that wild one into shadow when I was little, and have fought against that. I have fought against my own power for years now, and even had Kali come through so strongly in one ayahuasca ceremony that afterwards I wouldn't look in the mirror because I knew that I was going to see that aspect looking back at me. And when I did finally get up the nerve to do it, I saw Kali looking back at me, and it was so fierce and so intensely powerful that it terrified me, and I kind of pushed it away. And that's happened a few times. My very first time to ask for a power animal was before I knew anything about the shamanic studies, practices. I just knew that I felt called to the shamanic path. So one night before I went to bed, I just said, I want to meet a power animal, my power animal. And that night, sure enough, an amazing puma came and started circling me in a dream, and I immediately grabbed it and body slammed it. Obviously it was a dream because I couldn't do that otherwise, but and I just started attacking it. I was so afraid of my own power coming to me that I just immediately attacked it. And at the beginning I had an owl show up, and it started flying toward my head with open talons, like it was gonna, take a piece of scalp. And so there was this struggle with my own power. And then throughout the years studying and practicing shamanism, I was able to retrieve and bring more of those pieces back. But this one dark goddess piece has not come fully back on board for me. And one of the hardest things that I struggle with is hunters killing animals and any sort of hunter energy. And I've struggled with that piece. So that's the story. I finally just decided that I don't want to be afraid anymore, and I don't want these destructive parts unconsciously ruling me anymore. And so I just decided to work with Lilith as the first primordial wild feminine aspect. And it was a little scary. I went back and forth and just decided, okay, I'm going to do this. And so this is what happened. Last night, I've been calling her in for a few nights and been very clear about, calling in the Divine Mother in the form of the first primordial woman, creatrix of all beings, and that I'm doing this for healing and for the highest good and full alignment with God. So I've been really clear about it because it's scary. Because it's been so far down in shadow, and when it has come up for me, it's been so intense. I didn't know how to embody it, didn't know what to do with it, to be quite honest. And I've gone to some dark places in, the practice of shamanism, and I've gone there with other people and without fear. And for some reason, this one piece has been just terrifying for me. So I was also given other guidance to during ayahuasca to work with the goddess, the one goddess that embodies all goddesses, and was shown a definitely clear vision of that, and I have put that off for years as well. So anyway, getting back to what happened. So last night I decided it was time to do an upgrade, a Lilith upgrade with Mother Mary. And I'm doing this with a group of women that are also going through Lilith upgrades. But this one was my first journey, my first Lilith upgrade journey. And I opened sacred space. I set it up in my room where I decided to practice and where I do most of my ceremonies. Lit candles and open sacred space, calling in the directions and the allies that I usually work with. And I did a journey. And the first part of the journey started taking me down, and I immediately had all this fear come up that I was going down into the hell realm. I've been there before. This just felt like, okay, here we go again, let's go. And it was just taking me down into these dark places and fire. And I just kept saying, okay, I'm not going to resist this. I want to go down and retrieve this peace. And so all this fear was flowing through, and just kept going down, went down into these dark, fiery dens, and ended up meeting Lilith, and was on a beach at night under the full moon, and she was kind of crouched and really, really primal, bloody, had just killed something, was licking the knife, blood was dripping. It was crazy, just crazy carnal energy, wild, absolutely. There's no taming this energy, and it was building in my body. My body started having these reactions, and like somatic jerking and almost trembling, just absolute terror, and she was seeing me and I was seeing her, and her eyes were animal and fierce and just full of this intense fire and rage. And she's just this, predator energy, and it was so wild, it was intoxicating, and it started moving through my body, and she started dancing wildly, and it was activating this part of me that is so wild and sexual and untamed and just free, and was very erotic and very raw and absolutely just almost paralyzing me with terror. And I'm thinking, what am I calling in? What's going to happen? My body's shaking and trembling, and I'm like, what am I doing? And I just kept getting the message, it's okay, it's okay. And so I'm watching her just like do this wild, crazy dancing and ripping, and she started sending these snakes out from under her feet, and just like sending these nature spirits that she kind of worked with, and it was scary. And all of my programming, about hell and demons and all this was like really getting stirred up, and I just kept getting the message, it's okay, it's all right. And so I went with it. And this energy was so just crazy. And then I started liking it, and I liked this activating that was happening. It felt like life force coming back to me, and it felt like sensual power and just like rich, just richness, it was just coming out. And so this went on for, it seemed like a long time, and part of me just wanted to run. And then before all of this happened, Mother Mary came in and put her hand on the back of my heart and just like started sending this divine mother love into my body and shining out my heart and shining to all beings of creation. And I just got fully immersed in this Mother Mary, divine mother, pure, loving, unconditionally loving energy. So I'm backtracking, but that's how this started. So this whole time that Lilith was just like raging and expressing all this crazy energy, wild energy, Mother Mary was there with me, inside me, and the moon and the stars and everything just came alive. Like, and there was one point that this Lilith savage came and looked me right in the eye and kind of started circling me with the knife and hunting me, and just circling, and the intensity in her eyes, and she got really close to me, and like the knife, and in her mouth, and it was so just, I was uncertain. I was so uncertain. Is she gonna rip me apart? Is she gonna eat me? Is she gonna possess me? What's gonna happen? But still feeling Mother Mary there, and I could feel these parts of myself that had been dormant for a long time waking up. But as she's looking at me with these intense predatory eyes, like more like a cat, looking at me, and I'm wondering, am I gonna survive this? All of a sudden, the star shined its light down into the heart of me and Mother Mary at the same time. We were the same at that time, and then all this love started pouring through, and through to her, through to Lilith, and Mother Mary was like beaming this love to her, and it stunned her and almost woke her up, and tears started coming down, and she had this recognition of who she is, who she's always been, the truth of it. She's not this demon that's been locked away, that's horrid and that's just, the epitome of evil. She realized that she is not that was her pain from being shunned and put away and locked away. And, this aspect, this wild one that got shoved away in the shadows of my deep, dark psyche, so wounded and betrayed, and started believing that she was bad, and started embodying that evil and that destructive force and that part that wants to hurt me for locking her away. And I could feel all that. And as this love was pouring into her, I was feeling this acceptance of the true essence of that wild one. And I was also feeling all of the murderous acts and what it felt like to be the victim of this predatory, fierce force, this murderer, this hunter. I was feeling both sides of it, and it was ripping my heart apart. And it, like, all of this compassion came through at one point that was extremely painful and beautiful at once. And this process happened where Mother Mary and Lilith, in this space of love and healing and acceptance and forgiveness, like, Lilith just writhed and rolled around in pain of who she'd been, and of forgetting who she actually is. And she just, like, grieved it and raged and writhed, and all these demons or parasites or things, like parts of her that she'd been carrying, started leaving and started being freed and started going to the light and to where they needed to be free. And they were just, like, flying out of her. She was being unburdened. She was finding forgiveness and finding her place. And this aspect of her in me was coming back and being forgiven for taking the life of animals when I was younger, for treating other creatures wrongly. All these parts of me that were that destructive part in shadow, they were coming back and finding forgiveness in this space of love. And Lilith and Mary ended up uniting and becoming one being, and just right in front of me, transforming and transmuting all this dark energy, and it turned into this one being of beautiful, extraordinary, radiant light and power. And it was like all the qualities of Mother Mary, all the qualities of this wild feminine uniting to come into this, the original spark of goddess, the original creation of the divine feminine, divine mother, the creator of all of life was standing in front of me, just, looking at me with these radiant, piercing, loving, fiery, like fire from God, fiery eyes of God, straight from God, just loving so much that it hurt. And just this gorgeous light being, the essence of all feminine, of all divine feminine, in front of me, loving and telling me that it's time to heal, telling me that I am so loved and that we are one. And then she came into me, and all of that, all of the shadow that's been repressed, and all of the things that have been trying to harm me through self-sabotage, self-destruction, like, it's it's like they were just rocked by the mother and soothed and forgiven and loved and brought into wholeness. And I felt like I was shining with this light, like radiating literally in the room with this light as that part came into me. And my cat even walked over and was like, "Is it okay to come over?" And like, I felt so much love for my cat. It just, I wanted to cry, and felt so, I was still in this space of feeling love for all of creation so intensely that it feels like it's heartbreaking. And it was all inclusive, like she was giving me a little taste of what the mother feels. And even the wild feminine feels this love of creation, because this is an aspect of the Divine Mother. Divine Mother has so many faces, and all goddesses, all feminine is within this Divine Mother. And still today I feel this softness and this just like more compassion, intense love, and just forgiveness. For so long there's been this story really deep inside me that I'm not a good person because I've done these bad things, and I couldn't forgive myself for hurting animals, for killing animals growing up, and for treating people badly, for, this was just a story that was running, and it was connected to this wild aspect, this primordial carnal being. And because it was in shadow, I had made it all bad, and not getting the power from it, which is actually a fierce love, is actually a wild expression of God, of passion for God, and connection with nature. Mother Nature is destructive in so many ways, but they are beautiful. Storms are beautiful and destructive, there was just such a big piece that I was pushing away and fighting against, and while at the same time saying, I want access to all of my power. I'm sick of giving it away. I'm sick of running from it. And that was such a big piece of it that I was just keeping imprisoned, in there, deep down in there. But I'm going to tell you, it was really scary going into that, because I so strongly locked that away. And we all have these things that we lock away, that we're deathly afraid to go into and look at and face. And this was one of the biggest. And the thing is that I've had a hatred toward men come up just out of the blue in my relationship. It had nothing to do with what that person did, but it was connected to this feeling betrayed and oppressed and objectified by the masculine and not honored. Like, one of the things that Lilith really was raging about is not being honored and being cast aside. And that's been wounds that have come up from the subconscious for me and have kicked in addictions for me, mostly with food, but just just eating food that I know is bad for me and hurts me, like, so literally going and hurting myself because these destructive parts are not being dealt with. So anyway, there's more to it, but I'm continuing this journey, and we'll be working with Lilith, and I'll share what I'm going through. I'm just unpacking and unraveling what comes up as it does, and going through the process of compassionately allowing it to rise up. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for watching and joining my journey, and talk to you soon.